We are on the record for hearings in the matters listed in the North Dakota Industrial Commission hearing docket for March 26th. I'm David Garner, hearing examiner for these hearings. We are at the hearing room for the Department of Mineral Resources Oil and Gas Division, and it is 9:02 a.m. On the docket, the following matters will be continued or dismissed. Case number 31559 dismissed. This administrative docket starts on page 4 with case number 31569 and goes through case number 31534 in the supplement. These cases will be heard in the next room with Michael Zisch. Audio recordings of the cases in the administrative docket will be placed on the Oil and Gas website by the end of the week. If you wish to appear on one of the matters in the administrative docket, please appear in the next room. If there is opposition to the matter, it will be brought back into this hearing room to be heard, and your statements and evidence will be taken. We'll begin with moving to case number 31559, which is an application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP, for an order amending the applicable orders for the Elida Bakken pool to establish an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit described as sections 27, 28, 33, and 34, Township 151 North, Range 97 West, McKenzie County, North Dakota, and authorize 16 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. This case has been dismissed. That concludes our hearing for case number 31559. Case number 31560, application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP, for an order amending the applicable orders for the Elida Bakken pool, McKenzie County, North Dakota, to 1. Terminate an overlapping 2560-acre space unit described as sections 1 and 12, Township 151 North, Range 98 West, and sections 6 and 7, Township 151 North, Range 97 West. 2. Reduce the setback to 250 feet on either side of the common boundary line stand-up 1280-acre spacing units described as sections 1 and 12, Township 151 North, Range 98 West, and sections 6 and 7, Township 151 North, Range 97 West. Or 3. Granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP. I have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically in this case and the next 2, and then I'll have a different set for the last 2 Burlington cases. But the witnesses for this case are Claire Jackson, Sarah Beth Donaldson, and Gabby Jacoby.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Claire, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Claire Jackson. I'm a land negotiator at ConocoPhillips, and our business address is 935 North Eldridge Parkway, Houston, Texas 77079.
And Claire, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Jackson be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Claire, let's start with your Exhibit L1. If you can identify the spacing units where you're seeking the setback relief in.
Yes, Exhibit L1 represents the Almwood 1280-acre spacing unit, which is comprised of Section 6 and 7, Township 151 North, Range 97 West, and the Abercrombie 1280-acre spacing unit, which is comprised of Sections 1 and 12, Township 151 North, Range 98 West, and the overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit, which we are seeking to terminate in this case.
Okay. Let's move on to the next exhibit, L2, and if you can just take us through the working interest in those spacing units.
Yes, Exhibit L2 represents the ownership for the spacing unit. In the Abercrombie spacing unit, Burlington Resources has a 44.45% working interest, and Continental Resources, X Steel Holdings LLC, and Murata Energy LLC also have working interest. In the Almwood spacing unit, Burlington Resources has a 65.2% working interest, and Continental Resources, Collins Permian LP, Split Creek Enterprises LLC, Wild Basin Oil and Gas LLC, and Vitesse Energy LLC also have working interest.
Okay. I have no further questions for Ms. Jackson right off the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Ms. Donaldson,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Sarah Beth, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
My name is Sarah Beth Donaldson, employed by ConocoPhillips Company as a geologist, located at 935 North Eldridge Parkway, Houston, Texas 77079.
And Sarah Beth, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
Okay, and are you familiar with the geology underlying the spacing units at issue?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Donaldson be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Sarah Beth, let's look at G1. Can you describe the structure underlying the spacing units?
Depicted in G1 is the Upper Balkan Shale structure map with a contour interval of 25 feet. 25 60-acre spacing unit is shown in the red dashed polygon, which has an average dip of less than half a degree. The white star is the type log shown in Exhibit G2.
Okay, and let's move on to G2. Can you describe that type log for us?
Here is the type log identified in Exhibit G1 that shows our primary target intervals for this area. The middle Balkan and the top of the Three Forks second bench. The middle Balkan and Three Forks thicknesses are consistent across the spacing unit.
Okay. And then let's move on to G3. Can you describe for us what the development's going to look like with those proposed reduced setbacks?
Depicted in G3 is our full plan of development for the existing overlapping 2560 spacing unit, which will be terminated, including the reduced setback 250 feet on either side of the common boundary between two stand-up 1280-acre spacing units. Both the middle Balkan and Three Forks second bench reduced setback wells shown in the thick black dashed lines are planned 270 feet from the section line and will be drilled and completed at approximately the same time, with flowback in close succession as possible. These are part of a 10-well pad that will be batch drilled and estimated spud date of January 2026, and they will be super frac.
Okay. I have no further questions for Ms. Donaldson. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Sarah Beth, you indicated the intent to locate the proposed reduced setback wells at 270 feet off the section line. Is that for both wells, in both directions?
That's correct.
Okay.
So
And
pardon? Yeah.
and what are you requesting for the actual setback? If you plan to locate it 270 feet off the setback or off the section line, are you asking for a 250-foot setback in off of the off the spacing unit border?
We are proposing the 250 because our planned well will be 270 feet off the section line. This gives our drilling team an azimuthal window of at least 20 feet. We know not to penetrate from the 250 to 0 foot on the section line, and we will stay within our reduced setback corridor.
Okay, so you have about a 20-foot drilling tolerance,
That's correct.
and since you have the black line overlaying the well bore trajectory on G3, is one? I'm assuming it looks like you're alternating targets, one middle Bakken and one upper TF2.
That's correct. The western thick black line, part of the Abercrombie unit, that's going to be a middle Bakken well, and the eastern is a Three Forks.
And your intent is to drill both the middle Bakken and Three Forks targets at the same time?
Yes, they will. They are off the same pad and will be batched.
And they'll also be completed at the same time?
Yes, that's correct. And so, in fact, it's coming online at the same time, or in close discussion if possible.
Okay, do you know, or can you give me what your idealized interwell distance is?
In this area, we are planning to do about 585 feet interwell spacing. This one, just due to the proximity offset the parent, we're planning at 540.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Jacoby,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Gabby, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes. My name is Gabrielle Jacoby. I'm employed by ConocoPhillips as a reservoir engineer, and my business address is 935 North Eldridge Parkway, Houston, Texas 77079.
And have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the engineering-related matters associated with spacing units?
Yes.
I would move the testimony of Ms. Jacoby be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Gabby, let's start with E1. Can you describe for us how you would drill and complete the wells?
Yes. E1 is a visualization of our wellbore schematic. It's going to be a four-string casing design with a cemented liner in the targeted formation.
Okay. Let's move on to E2. Can you take us through the reservoir data?
Yes. The reservoir data below is for the sections 6 and 7 and 1 and 12. The true vertical depth will be 11,000 feet with an average thickness of 43 feet, a porosity of 7%, oil saturation of 66. We're planning on stimulating it with a high viscosity friction reduced base fluid and stopping the fractures. All the information is our reservoir property, and I'm expecting a primary oil recovery of about 767,000 stock tank barrels per well, which would give me a recovery factor of about 7% per well.
Okay. Let's move on to E3. What's the economics look like?
We're estimating a gross well cost of about $10 million per well. I'm showing the economics at 100% working interest and 80% revenue interest, and assuming a $50 per barrel and $2.75 per MCF price assumption, with my expected EUR of 767,000 stock tank barrels. That would give me a profit investment ratio of 1.6, a 13% discounted cash flow of 4.7 million, a payout years of 2.5, and a 45% rate of return.
Okay. And, excuse me, Gabby, just to clarify, so the wells with the reduced setbacks, those will sufficiently drain that corridor between the two 1280s, is that correct?
Correct.
So we won't need a lease line well there any longer and can terminate that 2560?
Correct. I expect this spacing will drain that corridor area.
Sure. So the relief you're requesting, in your opinion, will that prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits as well as the gas capture plan affidavit.
They're admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Gabrielle, the on your exhibit E2, the reservoir parameters that you're presenting here, you're giving an average. Is that Middle Bakken reservoir parameters, Three Forks reservoir parameters, or an average of both?
I'm showing I'm showing the average of the middle Bakken in this area,
Okay.
just as an example. But I don't expect variation between the two.
Could I have you provide a similar exhibit to E2 for the upper Three Forks that you're proposing to target as well?
Sure.
Okay, please do.
Claire, is this a new pad location, or is this going to be off of an existing location, or an existing pad?
This is Sarah Beth Donaldson. I can speak to
Okay.
This is, the pad has already been built, but this will be a all new well. With facilities on site.
So it's a brand new build, a new pad?
It's already been built.
Okay. Do you have existing production off this pad?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, Sarah Beth, since you're back on the line there, one follow-up question, just confirming, looking at your G3, the westernmost spacing unit, that already has several bench 2 targets in the Three Forks, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the one existing well on 6 and 7 happens to be a first bench Three Forks well.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Wait, is April 2nd good enough to get that exhibit?
Yeah, Gabby, can we get that exhibit by April 2nd?
Yes.
Yep, that works.
Okay, the record will remain open in this case until April 2nd. That concludes our hearing for case number 31560. Case number 31561, application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company LP for an order amending the applicable orders for the Elida and/or Twin Valley Bakken Pools, McKenzie County, North Dakota to 1, terminate an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 16, 17, 20, and 21, Township 152 North, Range 97 West. 2, reduce the setback to 250 feet on either side of the common boundary between stand-up 1280 acre spacing units described as sections 16 and 21 and sections 17 and 20, Township 152 North, Range 97 West. Or 3, granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP. And Mr. Examiner, this is essentially same concept as the previous case. Similar area, just shifted over a little bit, and I'll have the same 3 witnesses testify in this case.
And they're still under oath.
All right. And Claire, let's start with your exhibit number L1. If you can identify the area we're looking at, the spacing units where we're seeking the setback relief, as well as the 2560 that you're requesting to terminate.
Yes, Exhibit L1 represents the Mazama 1280 acre spacing unit, which is comprised of sections 16 and 21, Township 152 North, Range 97 West, and the Carlsbad 1280 acre spacing unit, which is comprised of sections 17 and 20 in Township 152 North, Range 98 West, and the overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit, which we are seeking to terminate in this case.
Okay. And let's move on to L2. Can you take us through your working interest in those 1280s?
Yes, Exhibit L2 represents the ownership for the spacing unit. In the Carlsbad spacing unit, Burlington Resources has a 49.34% working interest, and Continental Resources and Murata Energy LLC also have working interest. In the Mazama spacing unit, Burlington Resources has a 53.13% working interest, and Continental Resources has a 46.88% working interest.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the land exhibits.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
All right. Sarah Beth, let's look at G1. Can you describe the structure underlying the spacing units?
Section G1 is the upper Bakken Shale structure map with a contour interval of 25 feet. 2560 spacing unit is shown in the red dashed polygon, has an average depth of less than half a degree. The white star is the type log shown in Exhibit G2.
Okay, and let's move on to G2. Can you describe that type log for us?
G2 shown in the type log identified as G1. This shows our primary target intervals for this area, the middle Bakken and the top of the Three Forks second pitch. The middle Bakken and Three Forks thicknesses are consistent across this spacing unit.
Okay. And then let's look at G3. How would you intend to develop the 21280s with the reduced setbacks?
Depicted in G3 is our full plan of development for the existing overlapping 2560 spacing unit, which will be terminated, including the reduced setbacks 250 feet on either side of the common boundaries between two stand-up 1280 acre spacing units. Both the Middle Bakken and Three Forks second bench reduced setback wells shown in the thick black dashed lines are planned 280 feet from the section line and will be drilled and completed at approximately the same time. Flow back in close succession as possible. These are part of a 5-well pad that will be batch drilled with an estimated spud date of July 2025. These will be zipper fracs. The pad will be all new wells, and it has been constructed with facilities on site.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Sarah Beth, looking at your exhibit G3, again, confirming all the wells in the spacing unit appear to be Middle Bakken and TF2 targets already?
Correct.
Okay. And your planned placement on that well pad, northeast to the southeast of 17, I'm assuming there's some kind of topographic reason for that well and pad location?
I think the time of planing these wells is served by our surface land group and our construction division.
But what you have depicted on G3 is what you're currently anticipating drilling the wells? Or is how you're currently
That's
anticipating drilling them? Okay. And again, there will be one Middle Bakken and one TF2 on either side of the spacing unit boundary?
Yes. The western well will be the Three Forks, and the eastern is Middle Bakken. Or vice versa. So the western well is the Three Forks second fit, and then the eastern well is the Middle Bakken.
So do you end up with, I'm looking at G3 and the outside of the black line, both well bores appear to be Middle Bakken. So, sorry.
I misspoke again when I just said that. These will be alternating. The western well will be the Three Forks second bench well, and the eastern will be the Three Forks. I'm like, hold on.
It looks like if you alternate from the existing wells, you end up with two TF2 wells in that corridor.
They will. We will get that slide updated. It looks like the formations are wrong, but they will be alternating. The western is Three Forks. The eastern is Middle Bakken.
Okay. If you
We'll
could,
submit that by the second date.
yeah, if you could probably provide that with some clarity on it.
Yes.
And again, I guess the question about idealized interwell distance here.
Ideal in this case is about 555 to 560 feet, so we plan to use that for 280 feet off the section line, giving us the 516.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
All right, Gabby, let's look at E1 and just again describe how you drill and complete the wells.
Yep. E1 is a visual representation of our wellbore static with a 4-string casing design and a 4.5-inch cemented liner going through the target formation.
Okay. And then moving on to the reservoir, I'm assuming it's somewhat similar to the last case, but can you just kind of summarize that data for us?
Yes, very similar to last case. The well will be at 11,000 feet vertical depth with an average thickness of 43 feet, 7% porosity, 66% oil saturation. And we're planning on stimulating it with a high viscosity friction reducer and stopping the fractures. I'm expecting a primary oil recovery of 767,000 stock tank barrels, which will result in about a 7% recovery factor.
Okay, and then on E3, just summarize the economics for us.
We're expecting this well to be gross well cost of $9,500,000 at a working interest of 100% and revenue interest of 80%, assuming $50 oil and $2.75 gas. That would give me a profit investment ratio of 1.67, a 13% discount cash flow of 5.1, payout in 2.3 years, and a 49% rate of return.
And Gabby, again, similar to last case, with the reduced setbacks, does that essentially eliminate the need for a lease line well?
Yes, that would effectively drain the corridor area between the two reduced setback wells.
Sure. So then with that development that was previously described, in your opinion, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
The exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Gabrielle, again, your E2 exhibit, you're depicting just Middle Bakken Reservoir data. Could you provide an exhibit for the upper portion of the TF2?
I can provide that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, wait, is April 2nd good again?
Yeah, I think so. Sarah Beth, you can get your exhibit by April 2nd as well, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Okay, the record will remain open in this case until April 2nd. That concludes our hearing for case number 31561. Case number 31562, application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company LP for an order amending the applicable orders for the Dimmock Lake Bakken Pool, McKenzie County, North Dakota, to 1, terminate an overlapping 2560-acre spacing unit described as sections 13 and 24, Township 151 North, Range 97 West, and sections 18 and 19, Township 151 North, Range 96 West. 2, reduce the setback to 250 feet on either side of the common boundary between stand-up 1280-acre spacing units described as sections 13 and 24, Township 151 North, Range 97 West, and sections 18 and 19, Township 151 North, Range 96 West, or 3, granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP. And Mr. Examiner, similar type of case, same witnesses, but if I can just, a couple comments before we get started, provide some context. This one's a little bit different, and it might help if you look at the G3, but so they're asking for relief, but what we've got here, so 1 and 12, 13, 24, 6 and 7, 18 and 19, all are 1,280 acre spacing units. And if you look at, the Clemens well and the Dimmock Lake well on 6 and 7, 18 and 19, those are drilled on the 1,280 acre spacing units. And then there's also parent wells on 1280s and 13 and 24, and then 1 and 12. But subsequent to that, this is one of those areas where we've got the stand-up 2560s. So the wells that we're going to be seeking the setback relief from, the two black dotted lines, those are 2-mile laterals, but they will be, those wells will be spaced on the 2,560 acre spacing, that stand-up 2560 spacing. So just a little bit weird here that, the setback that we're seeking relief from, it's the same for, the 1280s and the 2560s. It's 500-foot setback, but just with kind of the development here on the stand-up 2560, I just kind of wanted to point that out. So it's, it's same concept as the last two, but it's just a little bit different with respect to the, we've got the stand-up 2560 spacing. So just want to point that out, kind of going into it. So, and Claire, go ahead if you want and take a look at L1 and describe for us the spacing units that we're looking at where we're seeking the relief, as well as that 1 2560 that we're seeking to terminate for the lease line development.
Yes, so Exhibit L1 represents the Clemens Simic Lake 2560 acre spacing unit, which is comprised of sections 6, 7, 18, and 19, Township 151 North, Range 96 West, and the Maverick Short-Shoreline 2560 acre spacing unit in sections 1, 12, 13, and 24, Township 151 North, Range 97 West, and then the overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit outlined in the red dotted line, which we're seeking to terminate in this case, which is comprised of sections 13 and 24 and 18 and 19.
Okay. And then let's look at Exhibit L2, and you describe the working interest for us.
Exhibit L2 represents the ownership for the spacing unit. In the Maverick Short-Shoreline spacing unit, Burlington Resources has a 44.45% working interest, and Continental Resources, XTO Holdings LLC, and Murata Energy LLC also have working interest. In the Clemens Simic Lake spacing unit, Burlington Resources has a 44.8% working interest, and Continental Resources, Northern Oil and Gas, WPX Energy, and Marathon Oil Company also have working interest.
Okay, I have no further questions. I would offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
I was on the Clemens Demix Lake. Looks like you guys have the same working interest. Are you going to be working with Continental on that one? Or are they okay with the spacing?
We have not reached out to Continental about the reduced setback spacing, but we can.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
Okay. Sarah Beth, let's look at G1. Can you describe the structure underlying the spacing units at issue?
Depicted in G1 is the upper Bakken Field structure map with a contour interval of 25 feet. 2560 acre spacing unit is shown in the red dashed polygons. This has an average dip of less than half a degree. The white star is type log shown in Exhibit G2.
Okay. And can you take us through that type log that you've got on G2?
G2 shows the type log identified as G1 that shows our primary target intervals for this area. The middle Bakken, 3/4 first bench, and a 3/4 second bench. The middle Bakken and 3/4 first and second bench thicknesses are consistent across the unit.
Okay. And then let's move on to G3. Go ahead and walk us through how you would intend to develop these spacing units and what you're looking at with the reduced setback wells.
Depicted in G3 is our full plan of development for the two existing stand-up 2560 spacing units. The existing overlapping 2560 spacing unit, which will be terminated, including the reduced setback of 250 feet on either side of the common boundary between the two stand-up spacing units. Both the middle Bakken and 3/4 second bench reduced setback wells shown in the 6 black dashed lines are planned 350 feet from the section line and will be drilled and completed at approximately the same time. With flowback in close succession as possible. These are part of a 6-well pad that will be batch drills, 2 drilling north and 3 to the south, with an estimated spud date of February 2026. These will be zipper fracked. This is off of a new pad location just north of the Clemens 24/7H, and it has not been built.
Okay. And Sarah Beth, so we only need the relief to the south? Is that because of the sort of the location of the existing wells to the north, that you don't need that relief to the north?
That's exactly right. Just due to the section line corridor spacing and the offset to the parent, we wanted to maintain our current well spacing for the area, which is about 660 feet.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Sarah, actually, this might be for you, Wade. The application here
Yep.
was to reduce the setback between common boundaries of the stand-up 1280s. And you're proposing the wells that you're going to have benefit from those reduced setbacks on the 2560. Am I correct that those two reduced setback wells are planned to be on the 2560.
Right, so, the black dashed lines are the wells to be drilled with the reduced setbacks, and the spacing on those is the stand-up 2560 spacing, correct?
Okay, I think we might have an advertising issue with that then.
I think, in my opinion, Mr. Suggs, I think we're okay, because we do have, existing 1280 spacing, and the setback on those existing 1280s, that's 500 feet, and it's also 500 feet on the stand-up 2560s. So I mean, essentially, it's the exact same setback, and there actually is, there still is the 1,280 acre spacing, 18 and 19, 13 and 24. So the parent well on each of those, is for 1280s. So we're seeking to essentially go, as opposed to the 500 feet where we could drill those wells, we're seeking to go the 250. And it's, whether you're describing the 1,280 acre spacing setback or the stand-up 2,560 acre spacing setback, it's the same. It's 500 for both. We've got all the lands described and identified. So, I mean, I don't see how somebody looking at the advertisement, could argue that they, don't have notice of, kind of what the reduced setback would be, I guess.
I would agree that it would appear that the parties that would be affected would have ample notice as the lands have been
Sure.
advertised in that way.
Sure.
I think we'll have to discuss it internally to see if we feel that we can grant the relief on the 2560s with this application as opposed to the 1280s with this application.
Sure. And I guess if it's an issue or there's a concern, I suppose we could file. I mean, we've already essentially got all the case. We could file like an amended app or something like that, and then sort of incorporate if we can incorporate the record from this hearing and sort of eliminate the need to, kind of go through all this again.
Right, I think as you're establishing a case record now, as long as no one appeared to oppose the subsequent
Yeah.
advertised case, then we could probably incorporate the record. That would probably work. But again, I think we'll discuss internally to determine,
Sure.
and someone will be in contact whether or not we need to
Yep, that's
proceed
fine.
down other roads.
Yep.
I guess with that out of the way, so Sarah Beth, looking at your G3, all of the proposed wells would be, and I understand that the two proposed wells in this case, the reduced setback wells, would be on the 2560. Are all of the other proposed wells on this G3 exhibit going to be on the 2560, or is some portion of these drilled on the 1280s?
These will all be part of the stand-up.
Okay. Then, looking at to the north of this proposal, that section line between 6, 7, 1, and 12, looks like, based on your well spacing, you could probably put a well on that section line. Is there a well planned to be put on that section line?
Yes, there is.
Okay, it's just not depicted on the exhibit?
It's shown, it's just light blue. It's kind of covered up by the gray line section.
Okay, so there is a middle Bakken well proposed down that section line?
Correct.
And I'm assuming there's an existing 2560 for that well?
Yes.
Okay. The two wells that you're proposing, again, for reduced setback, can you provide the targets? Again, they're under the black line, so I'm not sure which ones you're targeting. The westernmost well?
The western is the middle box, and the eastern is a 3-fork.
You said Three Forks first bench?
Yes.
Okay. And here you are proposing a mixture of first bench, upper second bench, and middle Bakken wells.
That is correct. from the offset from where the two previous speeds, these are further east on the incline, allowing for a thicker three-fork section and lower Bakken shale. So these are good for multi-bench development.
Okay, so again, looking at your G3, your second bench silt and your second bench Three Forks target, so the purple and green dash lines. Could you point out on G2 where those are differing?
Yeah, the second bench silt is the upper portion of the second bench, and then the green is be in the middle.
So like the stars where you've got the star is approximately where the green TF2 bench would be targeted,
That's correct.
and
Yeah. So your the 3/4 second bench silt at the top is going to be at 10,700 in about 25 feet.
okay.
That's where this plan the development off of this pad with the reduced setbacks. We're only targeting the first bench and the second bench where the star is located.
Okay. And then I guess lastly, your idealized interwell distance in this set of spacing units?
But plan 665 feet. Interwell distance between the two reduced setbacks are 700 feet. Just to maintain the offset of the existing parent well.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah Beth, that proposed wells to be drilled in the pad or location there in the southern part of section 7, is that location built?
Yes, it has. And that will have facilities on site for the Clemens Demick Lake CSU.
Is it due to just physical limitations or size of that pad, why that couldn't be shared with these two proposed wells?
That's correct. A 9-well pad close to the other Clemens Demick wells, the size of the SIMOPS and the facilities on site, how many wells can be located there.
Are the facilities for the proposed pads going to be on that existing one, or will it be on the same pad as the new constructed wellhead pad?
It will be on the existing, the Clemens Demick Lake, just to the east.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Sarah Beth, what was the distance from the section line that you proposed to drill these wells again?
350 feet.
Thank you.
You can proceed.
Gabby, let's look at E1. How would you propose to drill and complete the wells?
Yes, this would be E1 the wellbore schematic, which would be a 4-string Q2 design with a 4.5 cemented liner in the target zone.
Okay. And then let's move on to E2. Can you summarize the reservoir data in this area?
Yes, the average net thickness of this area would be 43 feet, average porosity 7%, oil saturation 66. We plan to stimulate this with a high viscosity friction reducer base fluid and top fracture. We're expecting a 703,000 stock tank barrel recovery from this well, which is about 7% recovery factor.
Okay, and then moving on to E3, can you take us through the economics?
Yes, we're estimating a gross well cost of $10,600,000 and a working interest of 100% and a revenue interest of 80%. That would give us a profit investment ratio of 1.27, $2.3 million discounted cash flow at 13%, 3-year payout, and a 26% rate of return.
Okay. And Gabby, if the setback relief is granted for the development that's been described, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Gabby, again, your E2 is for Middle Bakken. Are you able to provide an exhibit for the Three Forks as well, or the Three Forks second bench? Actually, in this case, the TF1 and the TF2, as they're both targets.
Yes, I can provide that.
Please do. And then I do have one additional question for Sarah Beth, I think. Again, back on your G3, I'm looking at the balance of wells that remain on the 2560 and the easternmost 2560. I think the westernmost stays balanced, but on the easternmost 2560, I'm counting 5 wells that end up on 6 and 7 on the 2560, with the easternmost well being on a section line, I'm assuming. And then on 18 and 19, including this reduced setback well, I'm seeing 6 wells. So we might have an imbalance between the two 2560s, or sorry, between the two 1280s in the stand-up 2560.
That is how we plan to drill this. This would be optimal, just given the offset of the parent.
Okay, we'll have to evaluate against the 2560 as well, so we'll review.
Wait, April 2nd, good.
Yeah, that should work for this one as well.
The record will remain open in this case until April 2nd. That concludes our hearing for case number 31562. Case number 31563. Application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP, for an order amending the applicable orders for the Jim Creek Bakken Pool, Dunn County, North Dakota to 1, terminate an overlapping 38 40-acre spacing unit described as sections 11, 12, 13, 14, 23, and 24, Township 145 North, Range 96 West. 2, reduced setback to 250 feet on either side of the common boundary between stand-up 19 20-acre spacing units described as sections 11, 14, and 23, and sections 12, 13, and 24, Township 145 North, Range 96 West. Or 3, granting such of the relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Excuse me. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP. I have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically. It'll be Mark Salvi, Brenton Chentnick, and Will Carlisle, and they should be on the line.
Mr. Salvi,
Yes,
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
yes, I do.
Mark, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Mark Salvi. I'm a staff land negotiator with ConocoPhillips. Our business address is 935 North Eldridge Parkway, Houston, Texas, 77079.
And Mark, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with these cases?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Selvey be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Mark, let's start with Exhibit L1. Can you identify the spacing units where you're seeking the reduced setbacks on, as well as the spacing you're requesting to terminate?
Yes. The existing 38 40-acre spacing unit is outlined with the red dotted line. We are seeking to terminate that overlapping DSU. And the existing 2 19 20-acre DSUs, the Firebird and Hawkeye, you see in orange and green on this map.
Okay. And moving on to L2, can you take us through the working interest?
Yes, and the Firebird DSU consisting of sections 12, 13, and 24, Township 145, Range 96 West. Burlington Resources has a 75 approximate percent working interest, and other working interest partners in that DSU include XTO, Continental, and Interplus, and a few others. In the Hawkeye DSU consisting of sections 11, 14, and 23, Township 145, Range 96 West, Burlington Resources has a 65.69% working interest, and our other partners in that unit consist of Interplus, XTO, and Continental Resources.
Okay. I have no further questions. I would offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. Chetnik,
Yes, good morning.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Brenton, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Brenton Chetnik. I'm a staff geologist at ConocoPhillips, and my business address is 935 North Eldridge Parkway, Houston, Texas, zip code 77079.
And Brenton, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have, yes.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed, or the spacing units at issue?
I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Chetnik be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Brenton, let's start with G1. Can you describe the structure underlying these spacing units?
Yeah, so G1 is the structure map on the top of the Upper Bakken Shale, 25-foot contour intervals. You can see it's relatively flat out here, nothing that would preclude us from being able to execute wells across these units.
Okay. And then moving on to G2, just, it looks like, Brenton, on that one, the case number, we've got 30796. That's just a typo?
Yeah. Correct.
And, but the type log that we're looking at, this is the type log that you've got identified on the G1 map?
That's correct. Up in section 1 to the northeast of the spacing units that we're discussing.
Okay. You just kind of take us through that, tell us what we're looking at on the type log.
Yep, so we're just looking at a gamma ray curve that highlights the various stratigraphic intervals and highlights the perspective intervals across the unit. And I've also highlighted the top of the Bakken, severance pool 50 feet above the Bakken, and base the Bakken down to the top of the Bird Bear.
Okay. Then let's move on to G3. Can you walk us through how you develop these two spacing units and the reduced setback wells?
Yeah, so you can see the dash lines are our planned Middle Bakken laterals. All the wells in these units are going to be Middle Bakken. We're requesting a 250-foot reduced setback along these existing 1920s. And the dashed black lines on either side, we have planned to be at 350 feet from the common boundary.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Brent, this is David Taylor. On Exhibit G3, which 1920 are you proposing to be drilled first, and are you going to batch drill all the wells?
So we're still working through our schedule, but all three of these pads that we have 3 pads planned to see the well sticks originating from, and all 3 will be drilled and completed within roughly the same time to be compliant with the reduced setback.
It is intended to have them batch drilled, is that correct, though?
That is correct, yes.
Do you have an anticipated spud date?
These would be towards the end of 2026.
In Section 11 and 14, Section 12, 13, Section 23 and 24, you have existing well bores. Is the intent to continue to produce those wells, or will those be P&A'd before the drilling and completion of the proposed well bores?
currently conducting an evaluation on which wellbores we may leave online and which wellbores we will base off of and end up plugging and abandoning. So that analysis is ongoing.
What's your interwell spacing goal for these spacing units?
Between 700 and 750 feet, depending on the parent well spacing.
Okay, thank you.
Brenton, the reduced setback wells you're proposing to drill, how far off of the section line are each of them proposed to be?
They would be 350 feet from the section line. That would create 700 interwell spacing between those two wells.
And as they are being drilled from different pads, your intent would be to drill one pad and then pop over and drill the other one?
That is correct, yes.
Would there be any opposition to the well not being able to be completed until at least both wells had been drilled?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So when you got two different pads drilling at potentially different times, oftentimes we require, right, I believe it's still a thing, that the offsetting well to a reduced setback well be at least drilled before the other one could be completed, if it was drilled first?
Yes.
Okay. I guess just confirming you wouldn't have opposition to that requirement if it were.
That is correct. No opposition.
Okay, thank you.
On G3, there's it appears to be a section line well between section 22 and 23, and then it appears that in your plan you've nudged the bottom or the southern 1 mile of that well off to the east. How far off that existing lease line well is that last mile of the western well on the Hawkeye unit?
Sorry, can you clarify which wells you're, I'm looking in closer detail. Can you clarify which wells you're referring to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the on G3 in section 22, which is just to the west of 23, in the Hawkeye unit, there's a lease line well. It looks to be right on the lease line of section 22 and 23, and the westernmost well in the Hawkeye unit drills 2 miles. It appears right up against kind of the lease line boundary or the setback, and then the last mile, which is in section 23. Deviates off to the east a little bit, and I'm wondering how many feet that well is off that lease line well.
Yeah, so we're actually going to talk about that in the next case, but as a spoiler, that the last mile of that well will be about 550 feet from the section line.
Okay. And are you guys a partner in the lease line well up against section 22, or will that come up in the next case?
Marathon is operated at Fox LDC. That was section 22 in the far southwest of the. I need to confirm that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you broke up a fair bit on our end when you were answering that. Could you try that one more time?
Yes, I'm confirming that real quick.
Do you want to just cover that in the next case? Do you think you'll get the info by then, since it's kind of related to that case?
If that's okay with the commission, yes, that would probably be a little easier for us.
Yep, let's do that then.
Thank you.
I guess one more, maybe couple questions, Brent. You are proposing all Middle Bakken targets in here, correct?
That's how they're currently planned, yes.
Okay. So you had on G2 identified a first bench target, but there's no plan to currently target that here in this area?
Yeah, this is the part of the basin where the first bench kind of comes and goes. So our current plan is that the Middle Bakken is more predictable and consistent. That's why we're moving to a single bench development here.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31563.
We haven't covered the engineer yet.
Shoot, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
That does not conclude our hearing for case number 31563.
Will Carlisle.
You can proceed.
I
I haven't sworn him
think
in.
he's been
Wow.
sworn in yet. Yep.
I'm off my game. Mr. Carlisle,
Yes,
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Will, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Will Carlisle. I'm employed by ConocoPhillips as a reservoir engineer. Our business address is 925 North Eldridge Parkway, Texas, 77079.
Will, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with these spacing units?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Carlisle be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Will, look at E1. How would you propose to drill and complete the wells?
Yeah, so what you're looking at here on the schematic is that we would expect to drill all of these wells with a three-string casing design. As Brenton mentioned, all landed in the Middle Bakken. We would be, in the lateral section, we would be running a 4.5-inch cemented liner. For a 15K well, we would plan to pump approximately 75 stages with a plug-in for completion design.
And then moving on to E2, can you summarize the reservoir data for us?
Yeah, so what you're looking at here is Middle Bakken reservoir fluid and volumetrics and data. From a 15K lateral in the area, we would expect to produce approximately 840,000 barrels from that well, which is approximately in the 6 to 7% recovery factor for that appropriate unit.
Okay. And then moving on to E3, can you take us through the economics?
Yeah, so we would expect these wells, 15K laterals, to be drilled for approximately $10 million per well. At a flat price tag of $50, they generate a positive rate of return and have a positive NPV of about $7 million per well and generate a rate of return around 45%.
Okay. And Will, if you get the setback relief and you drill these two reduced setback wells as proposed, in your opinion, is that going to be sufficient to drain that lease line corridor?
Yes, I do believe so.
And then in your opinion, with this development, is that going to prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Yeah, on the gas capture plan, it indicates that there's not been a gathering company selected yet. Just want to make sure that that's true. Do you guys have existing development in this area? And is it all connected to gas gathering? Do you anticipate there being an issue with gas gathering connections in this area for the wells that you guys plan to
So,
drill?
we do not currently anticipate issues with that. We operate wells just to the southwest of these proposed wells. So there's some gathering in the area. There might have to be some infrastructure hookup, but that's not an imminent threat or concern with the development timeline we are on.
Okay, maybe the question's already been asked. What was the timing of development?
Spud in late 2026.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31563. This time we will take a 10-minute break.
Mr. Examiner, there's only one more Burlington case, and it's sort of kind of similar to the.
Okay,
the
does anyone
previous
need to take
case.
a break?
Would
Well, okay,
take a break after the.
then we'll go take a break
Burlington.
after this one, okay. Case number 31564. Application of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company LP for an order amending the applicable orders for the Jim Creek Bakken Pool, Dunn County, North Dakota to 1, terminate an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 10, 11, 14, and 15, Township 145 North, Range 96 West. 2, reduce the setback to 250 feet on either side of the common boundary between a stand-up 1280 acre spacing unit described as sections 10 and 15, Township 145 North, Range 96 West, and a stand-up 1920 acre spacing unit described as sections 11, 14, and 23, Township 145 North, Range 96 West. Or 3, granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Burlington Resources Oil and Gas Company, LP. And, Mr. Examiner, this similar relief as the previous case, and kind of as testified to it, sort of ties into that same development. We're just kind of on the west side of that, and it'll be the same 3 witnesses testifying.
You can proceed.
All right. Mark, can you go ahead and identify the spacing units where you're seeking the reduced setback relief on, as well as the spacing unit that you're looking to terminate for the lease line development?
Yes. On Exhibit L1, the yellow 1,280 acre spacing unit is our Foxtail spacing unit consisting of sections 10 and 15. The Hawkeye spacing unit is the 1920 consisting of sections 11, 14, and 23. And the existing 2560 that we're seeking to terminate includes sections 10, 11, 14, and 15, and that's outlined in the red dotted line. And to answer the Commission's question from the prior case, Marathon Oil, one of the Conoco subsidiaries, operates the 1920 to the southwest, including sections 22, 27, and 34.
Thank you. Let's move on to L2. Just take us through the working interest in the spacing units.
Yes, Burlington Resources has an approximate 73% working interest in the Foxtail DSU consisting of sections 10 and 15, and Burlington has an approximate 66% working interest in the Hawkeye DSU, the 1920 acre DSU consisting of sections 11, 14, and 23.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from staff?
This might be a question again for Wade, making sure, understand the request is to reduce the setback between the existing 1280 and just the northern portion, the common boundary between the 1280.
Common boundary,
and the-
so like essentially the northern 2/3, that where it's common with that 1280, correct?
Okay, and
Yep.
you would intend the last mile of that spacing unit to retain its 500-foot setback?
Correct. It'll essentially be kind of steered then and to comply with the setback, between
22 and 23?
Correct. And Brenton will kind of cover that when he, yep.
Okay, thank you.
You can proceed.
Brenton, let's look at G1. Can you describe the structure underlying the spacing units?
Yep, the same structure map we saw on the previous exhibit and showing the type log that you'll see on the following slide. And again, very, very simple structure out here, nothing that would keep us from being able to effectively execute our laterals.
Okay. And then looking at the type log, is this basically the same type log as the previous case?
It is, yes, and I believe on this one I have the case number labeled correctly.
Sure. And looking, same targets?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Then let's move on to G3, and can you just walk us through how you're gonna develop this and then what the plan is for those reduced setback wells and kind of explain, you know, particularly sort of that last mile of the 1920?
Yeah, correct. So again, I'm showing the reduced setback in kind of the the black dashed line. And so the pad locations will be in the northern half of these units. And so the keels of the wells will be landed in the north and then drilled to the south. For the first 2 miles of each of the laterals, we intend to maintain 350-foot spacing from the common boundary. And then as you can see, the easternmost well is a 3-mile lateral. And so to be compliant with the existing unit line corridor, we will then use an azimuthal bend angle as we near that section boundary between section 14 and 23. And we will then steer the well to be approximately 550 feet from the section line between section 22 and 23.
I have no further questions that are for the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Brendan, this is David Tabor again. Similar questions to the last case. Do you know which space unit would be drilled or which proposed black well would be drilled first?
I mean, all 3 of these pads will be drilled in either simultaneously with our current rig lines, or we will drill them back to back to back. So the exact order is in flux right now.
Yeah, but they will again be batch drilled in for these as well.
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you would not have opposition to the question that Mr. Sugg asked on the last case as far as waiting for completions until both wells are drilled?
That's correct. No issues.
Are the proposed pads in the northern part of both sections, are any of those on existing pads, or are they both going to be new builds?
These will be new build.
Section 10 and 15 has an existing wellbore in it, as well as 11 and 14. Intent to continue to produce those wells and evaluate to determine whether or not they're going to remain in production or get plugged out?
Correct. We have an ongoing effort right now to evaluate whether we would leave those wells on production or we would basically space close enough that we would end up plugging and abandoning them.
Okay. And you did indicate 350 foot would be from the common spacing for your setback on the 2 black dotted line wells?
That is correct, yes.
What's your inner well spacing goal for these wells?
These are the same, between 700 and 750. You can see, as drawn on the figure, the toe of the eastern reduced setback does get a little bit tighter than that, so we're currently working on a plan to optimize that kind of last mile in section 23. But that work is ongoing.
Do you anticipate, and a bit more probably on the engineering side, but do you anticipate any issues with that kick out for that last mile?
I don't anticipate any issues.
In your completion plans, nothing would be changed or spacings left out or anything for that last mile?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You can proceed. Oh,
Sorry, one more. Brenton, I apologize if I missed it, but your plan to locate the section line wells where they are going to be in the reduced setback zone, how far off the setback boundary were they proposed to be?
The first 2 miles will be 350 feet, and then on that eastern well, we plan to then azimuthally bend the well to be 550 feet off of the unit line well that's down to the section line between section 22 and 23.
Okay, thank you.
you can proceed.
Will, let's look at E1. Can you describe how you drill and complete the wells?
Yeah, so we're looking at the wellbore schematic. I have on here 10K lateral. We would expect both of these reduced setback wells to be drilled with a 3-string casing design. I have shown here we would expect to complete a 10K lateral with approximately 50 stage completion, plug-and-perk completion. However, for a 15K lateral, we would expect that to be 75 stage completion. To elaborate on the question earlier asked, we would expect and plan for the same completion design on the first 2 miles of that 3-mile lateral as the last mile.
Okay. Let's look at E2 then, the reservoir data.
Yeah, so what you're looking at here is Middle Bakken reservoir and fluid data. And on the bottom, I have it broken out by 10 and 15K volumetrics, just to show the difference in recovery estimates and recovery factor. So for the 10K well, we expect to produce around 600,000 barrels from that well, and for the 15K well, around 840,000. Both of those, taken on a unit area basis, come out to approximately 7% recovery factor.
Okay. And then on E3, can you take us through the economics?
Yep. So I have this broken out by 10 and 15K economics. 10K well, we would expect to develop for around $8 million, and 15K for 10. Both of these wells generate a positive NPV, or discounted cash flow, and generate a positive rate of return, both over 30%.
Okay. And Will, in your opinion, if the commission were to grant this setback relief and allow for the development that you described, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? That concludes our hearing for case number 31564. And now we will take a 10-minute break.
right?
Here we go back on the record. We'll begin with case number 31565. Application of Whiting Oil and Gas Corp. for an order amending the applicable orders for the Foreman Butte and/or Pronghorn Bakken Pools, McKenzie County, North Dakota, to 1, terminate 2 overlapping 2560 acre spacing units described as sections 13 and 24, Township 150 North, Range 102 West, and sections 18 and 19, Township 150 North, Range 101 West, and sections 25 and 36, Township 150 North, Range 102 West, and sections 30 and 31, Township 150 North, Range 101 West. 2, establish an overlapping 5120 acre spacing unit consisting of sections 13, 24, 25, and 36, Township 150 North, Range 102 West, and sections 18, 19, 30, and 31, Township 150 North, Range 101 West, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit, granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Whiting Oil and Gas Corp. I have 3 witnesses appearing telephonically, Greg Sandberg, John Prim, and Eva Tomova Medina, and they should all be on the line.
Mr. Sandberg,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Greg, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Greg Sandberg. I'm a landman for Whiting Oil and Gas Corp., subsidiary of Ford Energy. Address is 1001 Fannin, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas, 77002.
And Greg, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes,
Had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
yes,
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the spacing units?
yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Sandberg be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Greg, let's look at L1, and can I have you identify the spacing unit that we're requesting as well as the ones that you're seeking to terminate?
Absolutely. So L1's a locator map showing sections 18, 19, 30, and 31 of Township 150 North, Range 101 West, and sections 13, 24, 25, and 36 of Township 150 North, Range 102 West. We are seeking to terminate the underlying section line spacing of the 2-mile lateral in there between sections 18, 19, 13, and 24, and 30, 31, and 25, and 26, and proposing a 5120 spacing unit comprised of all 8 of those sections for a section line well down the middle.
Sure. Let's look at L2 then. Can you describe your working interest?
Absolutely. So in the proposed 5120, we'd have a working interest there of 72.88%. And I will note that we did bring last month the stand-up spacing for 18, 19, 30, and 31 there in 150, 101. So this is the western section line of that previous case.
Yeah. And then L3, I guess. Take us through the underlying spacing.
Absolutely. L3 there shows that I'll walk you through them. The map depiction there, A, is sections 13 and 24. We have a 95% working interest. In B, sections 25 and 36, we have a 42.71% working interest. Unit C, described there, 18 and 19, we have a 66.26% working interest. And D, sections 30 and 31, we have an 87.64% working interest. I will note that we operate the 1280s of A, C, and D. The DSU there, labeled B of 25 and 36, is operated by Savannah, and we have had discussions with them regarding this proposed spacing unit.
All right. I have no further questions. I'd offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Greg, the case you referenced for the stand-up 2560, that was proposing 4-mile long laterals on that spacing unit to the east, correct? The 18, 19, 30 and 31?
I'm sorry, you cut out there for a second. Would you mind repeating that, please?
So the case you referenced as having been heard last week was for 1819, and I think it's 30 and 31. And that was for 4 mile laterals on that stand-up 2560 previously?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Prim,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury, the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
John, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is John Prim. I'm a geologist for Cord Energy, parent company of Whiting Oil and Gas. Business address 1001 Fannin Street, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002.
And John, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes,
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
yes,
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing units?
yes.
Okay, let's look at G1. Can you describe the structure for us?
Sure. So G1 is centered over Township 150 North, Range 101 West, with contours showing the Upper Bakken structure in subsea TVD space with contours of 20 feet. The proposed spacing unit is highlighted in that yellow dashed line. And it is showing that the Upper Bakken is shallowing slightly from south to north along that section line corridor from approximately negative 8600 subsea TVD to negative 8560 subsea TVD.
Okay, let's move on to G2. Can you take us through your ISOPAC map?
Yeah, so G2 is an ISOPAC of our target interval of the Middle Bakken, showing that the approximate thickness along that section line corridor is 26 feet thick.
Okay, and then let's look at the type log, G3.
Yeah, so this is the Frederickson 1-20. It was highlighted on the previous maps. Sorry I didn't point it out. It's just to the east of the proposed spacing unit. And it's centered over our proposed target interval of Middle Bakken, showing the subsurface properties we expect to encounter.
Okay. And John, you're not aware of any type of structural anomalies or anything like that that would impact the drilling of the 4 mile lateral?
No, sir. The dip is fairly gentle. We don't expect any issues there. No previous wells, none of the parent wells in the area, or none of our mapping has shown any faulting in the area that might, cause any issues as well.
Sure. I have no further questions and offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
John, just confirming on your G1, the gray short horizontal wells on that exhibit, those are Madison targets, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Demova Medina.
Yes, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Eva, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, sir. My name is Eva Demova Medina, and I am a development advisor at Cord Energy, located 1001 Fanning Street, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas 77002.
And Eva, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the spacing units?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Demova Medina be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Eva, let's start with E1. Can I have you describe how you intend to develop this spacing unit?
Yes, sir. So as Greg mentioned, we're planning on developing this alongside the stand-up 4-mile unit to the east. Current latest date is September 2025. We're evaluating surface options, but I've highlighted there the most likely case for both the in-unit and section line development.
Okay. Let's move on to E2 then. Can I have you summarize for us the reservoir data and the economics?
Yes, sir. John mentioned the geoparameters, so I won't repeat those. Coverage phase 26, looking at well EORs just under 750 MBO, and investment at around 11 million for discounted PIR 10 of just under 0.7.
Okay. Then, Eva, in your opinion, if the commission were to approve the 5120 to allow for this 4-mile section line well, would that prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have no further questions. I'd offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Eva, is the proposed section line well anticipated to be drilled on the section line, or is it going to be offset to the east or west?
Current plans are on the 0 line.
Would this section line well be drilled first, or the previous case that was mentioned, section line 4-mile well, be drilled first?
We don't have the specifics around that just yet. It could be drilled in any order.
This is probably just, I guess, a bit of a curiosity question, but on your per well economics, you used 71.50 as your average oil price. Is there a reason that it was, I mean, normally we see it as just 70 or a rounded up number. Is there any particular reason for that?
That's just the number we've used. You guys should stay consistent at all of our gearing conditions. Look at internally changing it if needed, but this is what our guidance is internally for these years.
Okay, thank you.
Eva, will this well be drilled off of the pad that is going to be used to develop section 1819, 30 and 31?
As I mentioned earlier, we're still scouting surface and seeing if we can drill all wells from one pad. It will be dependent on the step out, so it would either be 1 or 2 pads that we drill this development. But they will be on the north side of the DOQ. That we know for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our hearing for case number 31565. We'll now jump ahead to case number 31248. Application of Oasis Petroleum North America LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the McGregor and/or Midway Bakken pools to establish an overlapping stand-up 2560-acre spacing unit described as sections 29 and 32, Township 158 North, Range 95 West, and sections 5 and 8, Township 157 North, Range 95 West, Williams County, North Dakota, and authorize 4 horizontal wells to be drilled in such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Oasis Petroleum North America, LLC. And, Mr. Examiner, we'll have the same geology witness and engineering witness, but Keith Swiderski will cover the land issues.
Mr. Swiderski,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I do.
Keith, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, sir. My name is Keith Swiderski. I'm a landman with the Oasis Petroleum, located at 1001 Fannin Street, Suite 1500, Houston, Texas.
And Keith, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, sir.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the proposed spacing unit?
I am.
All right, let's look at L1. Can I have you identify the spacing unit you're requesting?
Yes, sir. So L1, the regional locator map, this proposed DSU will be located in 158-95, sections 29 and 32, and 157-95, section.
Keith, you cut out for a sec.
Yes, this is located in 158-95, sections 29 and 32, and 157-95, sections 5 and 8 of Williams County, North Dakota.
Okay. And then moving on to L2, what's your working interest in the proposed spacing unit?
Yes, sir. So our working interest in the proposed unit will be 40.38%.
Okay. And then on L3, can you take us through the working interest in the underlying spacing units?
Yes, sir, I can. So this is made up of two underlying spacing units. The northern one is a 1280, which Oasis is the operator, in which we own 80.76% working interest. And the southern is a 1280 that is operated by XTO, which we own 0% working interest. And I will note that we've been discussing our plans with XTO, and we do have a written letter of support in this case.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions out of the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Wade, has that letter been submitted for the supporting?
No, we haven't filed it. Is that something that
I think it would be a useful thing to at least show that they do support it, being they have less than majority for the proposed
Sure.
or requested.
Keith, would you guys be okay if we submitted that for the record as a supplemental exhibit?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we can do that, yeah.
You can proceed.
John, let's look at your G1. Can you describe the structure underlying the proposed spacing unit?
Yeah, so on G1, we're showing the Upper Bakken structure map in subsea TVD space with contour intervals, contour lines of 25 feet. Outlined in red is the proposed spacing unit with the existing Middle Bakken and Three Fork parent wells highlighted as well as the type log that will be shown in G3, the Hemsing 1 off to the east. And what the structure is showing is that we are dipping to the southwest from approximately negative 71.25 to negative 73.25 subsea TBD.
Okay. And let's move on to the ISOPAC map, G2.
Yep, so this is the ISOPAC of the Middle Bakken, our target development interval, and it is in contour intervals of 2. There's a typo there. I carried over the wrong scale there. It says contour interval 25 feet. It's 2 feet, excuse me on that one, but it is showing that the Middle Bakken is slightly thickening off to the northeast from approximately 54 feet to 59 feet with an approximate average of 56 feet across the area. And I would add, just related or similar to the last case, no known faults in this area, and the structural dip is gentle enough that our drilling team has expressed no concerns with being able to complete the drilling and completions of these 4-mile laterals in this area.
And then moving on to G3, what are we looking at on the type log?
Yep, so that's the Hemsing 1 off to the east of the proposed spacing unit. centered over that Middle Bakken reservoir interval that we are looking to develop with our development here, showing the subsurface properties that we expect to encounter.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the geology exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from staff? You can proceed.
All right. Eva, let's look at E1, and can you describe for us how you would develop this spacing unit?
Yes, sir. So here I'm highlighting the standard 4-mile unit with the red outline, and the 4 proposed Middle Bakken well bores shown in purple. We're still scouting service here as well. We have some options on the north side and on the south side. Similarly to the previous case, we're evaluating if we'll be able to drill all of these from one pad or if we'll need multiple pads as well. Thankfully, we have options here, so we'll evaluate, see which one makes most sense for this development. Another thing to highlight is there's some existing development in the east side of section 29 and 32 that's believed to be under developed, which is why we're proposing those 2 wells on the eastern end of the new 25.
Sure. Then let's look at E2 then, and again, can you summarize the reservoir data as well as the economics?
Yes, sir. On the geodata, average net pay about 56 feet here. Well, EOR just over 1100 MBO. Looking at investment just over 11 million per well, and discounted PR10 at 0.67.
And Eva, in your opinion, if the commission were to approve the overlapping 2560, would that prevent waste, protect correlative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I have no further questions that offer the engineering exhibits and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Eva, on Exhibit E1, first off, what's the anticipated spud date?
Yes, I didn't mention that. So we're looking at March 2026.
March 2026, did you say?
Yes, it's the latest one. It could accelerate potentially, depending on how our surface cutting goes. So, but that's where it is currently on our schedule.
Are you planning to batch drill all 4 wells at once?
Yes.
Will completion follow essentially once all 4 wells are drilled, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
The current well bores that exist within this proposed spacing, what's the plan for those well bores?
We will evaluate as usual after the fact. There are 4 well bores in section 29 and 32. We'll evaluate if we want to return those to production as well as the Bakken wells. I would say probably less likely, but we'll be evaluating that post completion of the 4-mile lateral.
So with that answer, I would assume then that you're not proposing or planning to have any completion stages left out for running across, or when you intersect the current Middle Bakken well bores, if you're going to simply evaluate to see if you're going to continue producing them?
I'm sorry, I did not understand the question. Can you repeat it?
I'll rephrase it too. So proposed 4-mile wells, are you intending to do anything special as far as completion stages for the current wellbores that are there to prevent any communication issues?
No, we're not. Like I mentioned, we believe that they're understimulated. So we will. Current plan is to treat them similarly. As we look further, there might be some altering of the completion plan based on the near wellbore, but for now we don't have any details on completion parameters.
What is your...
I would also...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, because I heard you mention crossings earlier. I just wanted to mention, where we do show the proposed wellbores crossing, that northwest-southeast trending one, and then that trilateral. Both of those are P&A'd currently. Okay. So those are not active wellbores.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
What is your interwell spacing between the wells on the east and the west? Your proposed 4-mile well?
I can answer that. Interwell spacing between our 4-mile wells is approximately 1,100 feet between.
Thank you.
Eva, on E1, can you identify for me the targets of the 2-mile laterals that exist on that northern spacing unit, 29 and 32? Start from either east or west and give me a Middle Bakken versus Three Forks.
I think John is prepared to do that as well.
That works.
Sure, I can jump in on that. Yeah, so starting on the west side of those 2-mile laterals, it alternates, starting with the Three Forks, then Middle Bakken, Three Forks, then Middle Bakken.
And the proposed wells are all proposed as Middle Bakken targets, correct?
That's correct.
So do you end up with a Middle Bakken well over your easternmost Middle Bakken well, pretty much directly on top of it?
So I think that this little diagram is a little misleading. It would be spaced in between those two. As we have it now, kind of rough plans, it would be approximately 350 feet or to 450 feet off of that those existing Middle Bakken wells. Obviously, they kind of narrow. That interwell spacing isn't perfect, as you might be able to see. So it might, widen or narrow, depending on where you are along that section. But that's roughly the interwell spacing that we would see between our 4-miler and the existing 2-mile Bakkens.
And the existing, the 1280 well that still exists on 5 and 8, is that Middle Bakken or Three Forks?
That's a Three Forks.
And both of the plugged wells were Middle Bakken, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Eva, you indicated that it was underdeveloped, or am I correct in assumption here where you're indicating that upper spacing unit 29 and 32 is underperforming?
Yes, sir. I think John has also has some numbers on that if needed for this.
Yeah, so I'll just say there, most of those wells up there were drilled and completed in 2014, and so their completion parameters would not be what we would consider, a modern completion by any stretch. And based upon our map volumetrics as well as what they have cumed so far, we have seen. We are predicting, roughly a 2% recovery factor up there, and just based upon our our current development strategy, we believe that we could recover approximately 10% across those sections.
Okay. I think I'm going to ask that you file a supplemental that supports that position. At a glance, we're looking at 29 and 32 with, 4 wells drilled already in them. 5 if you count the short lateral in 29. And the South 1280 has one 1280 well with, the 3 trilateral well as well, I guess. But looks like significantly more development on the northern 1280, and I think we would have some potential concerns over correlative rights between the 2 spacing units with 1 well drilled across all of it. So I think if you would provide that exhibit kind of supporting that case of underdevelopment, comparing 29 and 32 to 5 and 8 and what your projection is if you drill them with the 4-mile laterals, that would help.
Sure thing.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, is April 2nd good for, we have a couple
Yeah.
things you need to submit.
So, John, on that, that last supplemental exhibit, would April 2nd give you enough time to get that put together so we can get that filed by then?
Yep, that's plenty of time. I can get that.
Yeah.
The record will remain open in this case until April 2nd. That concludes our hearing for case number 31248. Case number 31566, application of Hesbach Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Big Butte Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping 2560 acre spacing unit described as sections 1 and 12, Township 156 North, Range 94 West, and sections 6 and 7, Township 156 North, Range 93 West, Montreal County, North Dakota, and authorize 1 horizontal well to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC. I'll have 3 witnesses, Levi Greenlee, Othman El Halou, and Aisha Keshemir, and I'll call them now. Hey guys, you can you hear me? All right. All right, we're good.
Mr. Greenlee,
Yes.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Levi, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed, in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yes, my name is Levi Greenlee. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as a senior land negotiator with the business address of 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
And Levi, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
I have.
And are you familiar with the land matters associated with the spacing units?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. Greenlee be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Levi, let's look at exhibit number 1, and if I could have you identify the proposed spacing unit.
Yes, Exhibit 1 is the location map of Township 156 North, Range 4 West, and Township 156 North, Range 93 West in Montreal County. In blue are the 2 existing stand-up 1280s, and in green is the requested overlapping 2560 stand-up lease line to issue.
Okay. And then moving on to exhibit 2, can you take us through the working interest?
Yes, Exhibit 2 shows the land plat of the proposed 2560 and in blue is the Hess-operated E&E DSU, where Hess owns 89.2% working interest, Missouri River with 6.67, and others with 4.13. And in green is the Hess-operated Ian Buick DSU, where Hess owns 78.1% working interest, Missouri River with 20.87, and others with 1.03. The combined working interest of the proposed 2560 is Hess with 83.7, Missouri River with 13.71, and others with 2.59% working interest.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. I would offer the land exhibits.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? Mr. El Halou,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I swear.
Othman, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed in what capacity, and give us your business address?
Sure. My name is Othman El Halou. I'm employed by Hess Corporation as an operations geologist. The address is 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas, 77010.
And Othman, have you previously testified before the commission?
I have.
Had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes, sir.
And are you familiar with the geology underlying the proposed spacing units?
I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Mr. El Halou be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Othman, let's look at Exhibit 3. Can you describe the structure underlying the spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 DSU outline in green with the existing wells marked. The top of the middle box and structure map is presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation is dipping to the south. And the line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross section in Exhibit 4.
Okay. And then let's move on to Exhibit 4. Can you describe what you're showing on that cross section?
Sure. Exhibit 4 is a stratigraphic cross-section that's flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region.
I have no further questions. I'd offer the geology exhibits 3 and 4.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Othman, regarding your Exhibit 4, the cross-section you're presenting,
Yes, sir.
those are all depicted as measured depth logs, correct? They're not converted to TVD?
Yeah, those are on TVD scale.
Sorry, you broke up?
Those, I believe I got it onto a TVD scale. Actually, I'm sorry, sir. It's measured depth.
I see it actually does say TVD over the depth column, but it's MWD gamma, so I guess I'm not entirely sure if you've got a correction there or not, but I can glance at the existing logs if I need to. So I would just ask that.
No, it is measured depth. You can see on the second log there in the blue some overlap at the bottom with where they drilled back up section. It's showing the TBD on the scale, but it's plotted along measured depth.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess I would just ask that when you do present them, that you try to show them as TBD corrected, so that it's easier to make a comparison across various formations.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Ketchmere,
Yes, sir.
do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Aisha, can I have you state your name, tell us by whom you're employed and what capacity, and give us your business address?
Yeah, sure. My name is Aisha Kashmir. I'm a reservoir engineer employed by Hack Corporation. Business address is 1501 McKinney Street, Houston, Texas 77010.
And Aisha, have you previously testified before the commission?
Yes, I have.
Have you had your qualifications received as that of an expert?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the engineering matters associated with the proposed spacing units?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'd move the testimony of Ms. Keshemir be received as that of an expert.
Motion granted.
And Aisha, let's look at Exhibit 5. How would you intend to develop the proposed spacing unit?
So Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for Section 6, 7, and 1 and 12. The bold dashed line is the proposed lease line well and will be drilled in the middle parking formation.
Okay. And then moving on to Exhibit 6, can you summarize for us the reservoir data and economics?
So Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a single 2-mile middle parking well in this root field. The expected EUR is around 580,000 standard barrels. Economics will run at $62 per barrel WTI flat and 100% working interest. The expected NPV is around $8.5 million with 65% rate of return.
And Aisha, in your opinion, if the commission were to approve this spacing to allow for that section line well, would that prevent waste and protect relative rights?
Yes, it does.
Okay, I have no further questions. I would offer Exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Aisha, what's your anticipated spud date?
It's around November 26th.
Will the proposed lease line well be batch drilled along with the other planned Middle Bakken wells indicated on Exhibit 5?
Yes, that's correct.
Is the lease line well anticipated to be drilled on the section line, or are you going to be offset to the east or west?
It's going to be right on the section line.
And the proposed pad that's indicated, is that a new build, or is that actually shared from existing pad that's there?
It's going to be extension from the existing pad.
And then I'm going to do my best to ask this question, so kind of bear with me here, but in or on your Exhibit 5, oh, never mind, I have my coworker just answered it for me, so I guess we're good. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31566. Case number 31567. Application of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Cottonwood Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping stand-up 1920 acre spacing unit described as sections 24, 25, and 36, Township 157 North, Range 92 West, Montreal County, North Dakota, and authorize 5 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner. Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hesbakken Investments 2 LLC. Same 3 witnesses will testify in this case.
You can proceed.
Okay. And Levi, let's look at Exhibit 1. Can you identify the proposed spacing unit for us?
Yes, Exhibit 1 is the location map showing Township 157 North, Range 92 West, Montreal County. In blue is the existing stand-up 1280 DSU, and in green is the requested overlapping 1920 DSU that includes Section 24.
Okay. And then moving on to Exhibit 2, can you take us through your working interest?
Yes, Exhibit 2 is the land plat of the proposed overlapping 1920 spacing. In blue is an undeveloped section, Section 24, where Hess currently owns 31.25% working interest in new leases. and is actively negotiating on leases with the other unleased owners in that section. In orange is the Hess operated RS8F DSU, where Hess owns a 70.6% working interest, Lime Rock with 19.04, and others with 10.36. The combined working interest in the proposed 1920 as it sits today is Hess with 44.37, Lime Rock with 6.35, and others with 49.29. Hess is expecting to lease majority of the outstanding interest in Section 24 soon, and our working interest share will increase. And this is a flood date of July 2026, just so y'all have that.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. I'd offer Exhibits 1 and 2.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
Osman, let's look at Exhibit 3 and describe the structure underlying the spacing unit for us.
Yes, sir. Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 1920 DSU outline in green with the existing wells marked. The top middle Bakken structure map is presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation is dipping to the southwest, and the line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross section.
Okay, and then moving on to Exhibit 4, can you describe for us what you're showing with the cross section?
This is a stratigraphic cross section that's flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continuous throughout the region. And then I just double checked the domain here is, these are plotted on TBD scale.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. No further questions for Mr. El Halou. I'd offer Exhibits 3 and 4.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
All right, Aisha, let's look at Exhibit 5 and describe how you would intend to develop the spacing unit.
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 1920 development plan for Section 24, 25, and 36. The 5 bolded dashed lines are the proposed wells, and they all will be drilled in the Middle Bakken Formation.
Okay. And then looking at Exhibit 6, can you summarize the reservoir data and economics?
Sure. Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for a 3-mile lateral in Middle Bakken in the Cottonwood field. The expected EUR is 780,000 standard barrels. Economic will run at $62 per barrel WTI flat and 100% working interest. The expected NPV is around $5.2 million with 32% rate of return.
Okay. And Aisha, in your opinion, if the commission were to approve the 1920, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes, it does.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer Exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Aisha, are these 5 wells planned to be batch drilled?
Yes.
The current wellbore that's in Section 25 and 36 is also a Bakken well, correct?
That's correct, yes.
What's the plan for that well? Are you going to continue to produce it, or is that proposed to be plugged?
Most likely will be plugged. Right now it's producing around 14 barrels oil a day, and we're anticipating starting those wells next year, September 2026. So we will run economics, but most likely this well will be plugged.
Do you think that it'd be plugged before drilling the proposed wellbores and completion, or after?
Most likely we do it before drilling.
What's your interwell spacing goal?
It's 900 feet.
The proposed surface location as indicated, is that a new build pad, or is that going to be shared with that current location that's there?
It's going to be a new build since the well, the existing one, is very old. So there's a very old facility. So it's going to be a new build.
Okay, thank you. Aisha or possibly Levi, I'm assuming though there's an existing 640 on, or existing spacing unit on section 24, but with this application, I'm assuming there's no intent to drill any wells on that 640?
Not on a 630.
Okay, thank you.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31567. Case number 31568, application of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC for an order amending the applicable orders for the Ross Bakken Pool to establish an overlapping stand-up 2560-acre spacing unit described as sections 15, 22, 27, and 34, Township 156 North, Range 91 West, Montreal County, North Dakota, and authorize 5 horizontal wells to be drilled on such unit or granting such other relief as may be appropriate. All interested parties, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Examiner Wade Mann, P.O. Box 2798, Bismarck, North Dakota, appearing in this case on behalf of Hess Bakken Investments 2 LLC, and the same 3 witnesses will appear in this case.
Okay, you can proceed.
All right, Levi, let's look at exhibit number 1, and can you describe the proposed spacing unit for us?
Yes, Exhibit 1 is the location map of Township 15691, Range 91 West, in Montreal County. In blue are the 2 existing 1280 stand-ups, and in green is the requested overlapping 2560 spacing.
Okay, and then moving on to exhibit 2, can you take us through the working interest?
Yes, the land plat on Exhibit 2 shows the overlapping 2560 spacing. In blue is the Hess-operated RS Applebee's DSU, with Hess owning 59.77% working interest. Lime Rock, which I believe now is Parada, owns 29.39% working interest, and others 10.84%. And in orange is the Hess-operated Agribank DSU, where Hess owns 42.63% working interest. Burlington Resources 28.08%. Continental with 27.8%, and others of 1.5%. And the combined working interest of the proposed 2560 is Hess with 51.12% working interest, Lime Rock, which is now Parada with 14.7%, Burlington Resources with 14.4%, Continental with 13.89%, others with 6.17%. Just as a note, we reached out to the other 3 working interest owners referenced here with the proposed spacing and development, and with no objection from their side.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 1 and 2.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff? You can proceed.
All right, Othman, let's look at exhibit number 3. Can you describe the structure for us?
Sure. Exhibit 3 shows the location of the existing DSUs in blue and the requested 2560 DSU outline in green with the existing wells marked. The top middle Bakken structure map is presented with a 50-foot contour interval showing that the formation is dipping to the southwest. The line A to A prime represents the location of the wells used in the cross section.
Okay, and then moving on to exhibit number 4, what are you showing us with that cross section?
And the stratigraphic cross section that's flattened on the top of the Bakken, showing that the targeted formations are present and continue throughout the region. And the domain in here is also set PD scale.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer exhibits 3 and 4.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Othman, looking ahead just a little bit, the proposal is going to be for 4-mile laterals on this spacing unit, correct?
Yes, sir.
So with a stand-up 2560 then, do you anticipate any geologic hazards or faulting or folding that'll cause problems for drilling across the proposed spacing unit with 4-mile laterals?
We do see an oiling and sand feature that is intermittent, so it's not laterally continuous when we're geosteering, but we've proven, our team here, we've proven that we have some pretty good markers that we can use, whether that sand feature shows up or not, to keep us in the zone. It is a tighter zone, but we've made it so far in 2 mile laterals, and I don't see why keeping going will work, and also 3 mile laterals. So I think if we keep the same approach, we should be fine.
That sand feature you're referencing, would you be able to point out on one of the logs on the cross section what that signature looks like?
Yeah, yes, sir. You can see it. It's a cleaner gamma ray character. You can see it on the second and third log, and you don't quite see it on the first one. However, there's the markers dividing the TSC, what we call, the TSC and the LS. It's a really high gamma ray signature, so that helps with letting us know if we're getting too high up or not, and make any adjustments. Come back into to avoid the shell.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
You can proceed.
Aisha, let's look at Exhibit 5, and can you describe how you would develop this spacing unit?
Sure. Exhibit 5 shows the proposed 2560 development plan for Section 15, 22, and Section 27 and 35. The bold dashed lines are the proposed wells and will be built in the Middle Bakken Formation.
Okay. And then moving on to 6, can you summarize the reservoir data and economics?
Sure. Exhibit 6 shows the reservoir and economic summary for the typical 4 mile Middle Bakken well. The expected EUR is around 890 MBO. Economics were run at $62 per barrel WTI flat and 100% water working interest. The expected NPV is around $9 million with 49% rate of return.
And Aisha, if the commission were to approve this spacing, would that prevent waste, protect relative rights, and prevent the drilling of unnecessary wells?
Yes.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'd offer Exhibits 5, 6, and the gas capture plan affidavit.
Exhibits are admitted. Any questions from the staff?
Aisha, what's the planned spud date for these wells?
It's January 2027.
You say that again, please?
January 27.
And these will be batch drilled as well?
Yes.
The current well bores that exist, is it the same plan as you testified in your last case, that they'll be evaluated and possibly plugged prior to drilling and completion?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Aisha, the existing well bores, the 1280 well bores on the north part and the south part here, have you evaluated those? Do they have similar productivity?
Yes, so right now both are producing less than 20 barrels oil per day, both of them.
Okay. Are they projecting to cum a similar EOR?
Yeah, yes, correct.
Okay. They were both completed similarly in, I think, I'm looking at one of them around 2008.
Yeah, pretty much similarly,
Okay.
both of them.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That concludes our hearing for case number 31568. We'll now move on to the supplement. I'll note that it includes case numbers 31503, 31505, 31506, 31507, and 31508. These are being heard again today due to a publication error. I'll give anyone an opportunity to comment at this time. I'll note for the record that no one appeared to comment on any of these cases. That concludes our hearings for case number 31503, 31505, 31506, 31507, and 31508. And that concludes our hearings for the day.